Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to control everything in your life, the more things seem to slip through your fingers? Those carefully laid plans, those perfect strategies, every detail mapped out to the last step, and yet, things rarely unfold the way you imagined. We often convince ourselves that if we just work harder, tighten our grip, and push everything into place, life will finally cooperate. But in truth, that constant control is exactly what's draining you and keeping you stuck in frustration. What if I told you, the opposite is true? That the moment you stop forcing, stop clinging, and begin to trust in the natural flow of life, everything starts falling into place effortlessly. In ways you never expected. Life has a strange, almost poetic way of teaching us lessons. The more we try to micromanage outcomes, dictate timing, or expect others to react exactly how we want, the more exhausted and disappointed we become. We plan every move meticulously, believing that if we just try a little harder, push a little further, and never let go, things will eventually work out. But here's the truth, it's an illusion. The reality is, when you stop forcing things to happen, stop clenching so tightly, and begin to trust in the natural course of events, life becomes lighter, easier, and far more fulfilling. This isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing where your true power lies. The Stoics understood this wisdom centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius once wrote about the importance of accepting what comes naturally instead of wasting energy resisting reality. He realized that struggling against things beyond our control only deepens our suffering, and that the greatest battle is always within ourselves, learning to train the mind to focus on what we can shape, and gracefully letting go of the rest. And that, my friend, is exactly what we're going to unpack today. A powerful shift in mindset that can change the way you approach success, relationships, and even your own inner peace. Because if you constantly feel stressed, like no matter what you do, things just aren't lining up, there's a reason for it. You might be holding on too tightly to things that were never meant to be controlled in the first place. This isn't just another self-help video. This is about something deeper. It's about how to live with real confidence, to move through life with calm and quiet certainty, rather than anxiety and frustration. And trust me, if you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll walk away with a completely new perspective on how to get what you want in life, without chasing it desperately. Before we dive in, let me ask for a simple, free favor. If you find value in what we're sharing here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second, but it helps bring this kind of content to more people who truly need it. Alright, let's get into it. We spend so much of our lives obsessing over outcomes, waiting for that job offer, hoping a relationship works out, stressing whether our efforts will finally pay off. We tell ourselves, if I just work a little harder, push a little more, surely I can force things to go my way. But what actually happens? The tighter we cling to a specific result, the more anxious we become. The process itself loses its joy, and our happiness becomes completely dependent on something we can't fully control. And in that moment, we trap ourselves. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we don't suffer because of what happens to us, but because of our attachment to how we want things to happen. He famously said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens as it should, and you will be happy." In other words, instead of tying your peace and happiness to a specific outcome, focus on the process. Focus on what you can control. Your actions, your discipline, your attitude, your mindset, and let the rest go. Imagine an artist painting a masterpiece. If they obsess over making every brush stroke perfect, or worry constantly about how others will judge their work, they'll never find their creative flow. but when they release attachment to the final result and simply pour their heart into each stroke. That's when true art and peace appear. So, how do we train ourselves to develop that kind of mindset? How do we learn to release what we should and stay steady through whatever life throws at us? Well, let's dive deeper together. Right after this. As we touched on in the previous part, when you stop clinging to outcomes and start trusting the natural flow of life, something incredible happens. Everything begins to feel lighter, easier, and that's often when the best things start to show up. Picture an artist standing in front of their canvas. The moment they let go of worrying about every brushstroke, stop stressing over what others might think, and simply focus on the joy of painting, something magical takes place. They become fully immersed in each stroke, each shade of color, and suddenly, the work feels effortless. Ironically, that's when they create their finest pieces. And you know what? This isn't just true for art. It applies to everything in life: your work, your relationships, your personal growth. When you stop obsessing over how things must turn out, you finally allow yourself to enjoy the journey. This is especially obvious when it comes to relationships. Have you ever seen someone trying way too hard to impress another person? Their energy feels tense, desperate, almost forced. And what happens? It drives people away. But when someone is genuinely confident, at ease with who they are, and not fixated on forcing a certain outcome, they naturally attract others. Why is that? Because they're not being ruled by fear. They trust that whatever's meant to happen will happen. That's the quiet, powerful energy of detachment. Now let's shift the focus to success. So many people live with the belief that if they don't achieve a certain goal by a certain time, they've somehow failed. They treat life like a strict checklist: graduate by this age, make this amount of money, get married, hit this milestone. And when things don't unfold according to that rigid plan, they spiral into self-doubt and frustration. But the truth is, success has never been a straight line. It's filled with unexpected turns, setbacks, and surprising opportunities. And if you stay too attached to one specific outcome, you might completely miss out on something even better that life is trying to bring your way. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, what am I gripping too tightly? What expectation or goal is weighing me down and stressing me out? Now, imagine what might happen if you loosen that grip. Not giving up, but trusting that whatever comes, you'll be okay. That's detachment. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to happen a certain way just to feel at peace. So, how do you actually practice this in real life? First, remind yourself daily that outcomes are beyond your control. The only things you truly have power over are your effort, your discipline, and your mindset. Second, reframe your thinking. Instead of saying, "I need this to work out," try shifting to, "I trust that whatever happens, it will lead to my growth." And finally, anchor yourself in the present moment. The more you immerse yourself fully in now, the less control the future has over you. Life will always throw challenges your way. Some days, everything flows effortlessly. Other days, it feels like the world is working against you. But the difference between those who crumble and those who thrive isn't luck, it's mindset. The way you think shapes the way you experience life. And if you don't learn to master your mind, eventually, your mind will master you. Which brings us perfectly to the next part of this journey, where we'll dive deeper into how to shift your thinking. So no matter what's happening out there, you stay calm, steady, and in control within. Let's keep going. As we just mentioned, life doesn't always go our way. But what truly matters isn't what happens, it's how you respond to it. And it's in that response where your real power lies. When you shift your mindset from reacting impulsively to responding mindfully, everything begins to change. Psychologist William James, often considered the father of modern psychology, once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." And that's exactly what the Stoics taught. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to let every difficult moment define who you are. Instead, you can train yourself to pause, step back, and see the situation from a different perspective, to reframe the moment and discover something new. Here's an example. Imagine you're going through a rough patch at work. You keep making mistakes. Your boss is breathing down your neck. And it feels like you're failing. Someone with a fixed mindset might think, "I'm terrible at this. I'll never get better. Maybe I'm just not good enough." But what if you changed that thought? What if you said to yourself, "I'm learning. Every mistake is teaching me something. This pressure I'm feeling, it's helping me grow." That's called a growth mindset. And it allows you to turn struggles into opportunities. The Stoics believed that every challenge is a chance to practice virtue, patience, resilience, wisdom. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, just as labor strengthens the body." It means every setback, every failure, every frustrating moment is secretly training you to become stronger. Think of it like lifting weights. If you never challenge yourself, your muscles won't grow, and the same is true for your mind. But let's be honest, mastering your mindset isn't something that happens overnight. It takes daily practice. One simple way to start is by paying attention to your inner dialogue. Are you constantly feeding yourself thoughts of fear, doubt, and negativity? Or are you training yourself to spot opportunities, to reframe situations, and to stay calm in the face of uncertainty? Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant, grows. If you sow seeds of fear and anxiety, they'll take over. But if you plant seeds of strength, clarity, and resilience, those will flourish instead. Another powerful way to strengthen your mindset? Train yourself to stay present. So much of our stress comes from obsessing over the past or worrying about the future. Yet the only thing you can ever control is this moment. Right now. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself, what can I do right now that will move me forward? That one question can snap you out of panic and bring you back to what truly matters. And you know what? One of the hardest, but most valuable, lessons we all need to learn is patience. Especially when you're working hard towards something meaningful. You've put in the effort, done everything right, but what happens next? In the previous part, we talked about keeping a steady mind, staying patient with the process, and not letting negative thoughts control your emotions. But sometimes, no matter how hard you try, nothing seems to be happening. Frustrating, isn't it? Modern society often convinces us that success should arrive quickly, that if results don't show up instantly, we must be on the wrong path. But the truth is, life doesn't follow your schedule, or anyone else's. It moves to its own rhythm. And the more you try to rush it, the more disappointment you invite. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Think about that. Anything truly valuable, wisdom, resilience, success, it takes time to grow. Just like you can't make a tree grow faster by tugging on its branches. You can't force life to hand you what you want before the time is right. There's an order to things. And when you learn to trust that timing, you free yourself from a great deal of unnecessary stress. Imagine a young artist, dreaming of making a name for themselves. Day after day, they pour their heart into every piece of work. Yet no one seems to notice. At this point, they face two choices. 1. To get frustrated, lose faith, and give up. Or 2. To keep believing that every brushstroke, every piece they create is preparing them for something greater, even if they can't see it yet. Those who trust the process, who stay the course, eventually find themselves right where they were always meant to be. We live in a culture of instant gratification, fast food, fast information, fast success. From a young age, we've been conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen quickly, it isn't worth waiting for. But the truth is, some things simply require time, meaningful relationships, personal growth, mastering a skill. All of these demand patience. Socrates once said, "To do is to be." Meaning, real growth is found in the process, not just the outcome. If you're always fixated on when something will happen, you miss out on who you're becoming along the way. But here's the hard part: how do you stay patient when it feels like nothing's happening? The Stoics would tell you, focus on what you can control. You can't control the timing, but you can control your actions. You can keep showing up, keep working, keep growing as a person. And above all, you can trust that if something is meant for you, it will arrive, not a second too early, and not a moment too late. One of the most important lessons Stoicism teaches is the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. Instead of resisting life's timing, learn to embrace it. If things aren't happening as fast as you'd like, maybe it's because you're still becoming the version of yourself who's ready to receive them." Have you ever noticed how, when you chase something desperately, a job, a relationship, success, it always seems to slip further away? As if the universe senses your frantic energy and responds by pulling back. But when you act with calm, clear intention and quiet confidence, everything begins to fall into place. There's a powerful difference between chasing and attracting what you want. And the Stoics understood this well. Epictetus once said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." So, how do you start attracting rather than chasing? In the previous part, we talked about how you shouldn't let yourself get caught up in chasing or acting out of desperation. Instead, you should learn to act with calmness and trust in the process. But how do you tell the difference between acting with clear purpose and acting out of fear? In other words, before you take any action, be certain about why you're doing it. Because desperate actions often come from fear, fear of missing out, fear of failure, or fear of not being enough. Meanwhile, purposeful actions come from clarity and inner strength. When you truly know who you are and what matters to you, every decision you make carries more weight, feels more grounded, and is guided by intention. Imagine two people both searching for a job. The first one is panicked, sending out applications everywhere, even for positions they don't truly want. Every rejection shakes them. Their energy is scattered, anxious, and directionless. Now, the second person is calm and focused. They know their strengths. They take time to carefully prepare each application, writing every cover letter with intention. And, most importantly, they aren't obsessed with immediate results. Who do you think is more likely to get hired? Of course, the one who's calm, confident, and intentional about what they're doing. This applies to relationships too. If you enter a relationship out of desperation, because you fear loneliness or need someone to fill a void, it often leads to disappointment. But when you approach relationships with self-respect, confidence, and personal value, you naturally attract healthier, more fulfilling connections. People are drawn to those who are secure in themselves, not to those desperately grasping for validation and attention. Aristotle once spoke of eudaimonia, a state of living with purpose and fulfillment. He believed that true happiness doesn't come from chasing external things, but from aligning your actions with your virtues and inner values. Act with wisdom, integrity, and intention. Let the outcomes take care of themselves. When you move with purpose instead of panic, You'll notice yourself making better decisions. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your true goals. Picture a seasoned chess player and a complete beginner. The beginner reacts impulsively, making moves out of fear and uncertainty. Meanwhile, the expert plays with patience, seeing the bigger picture, and waiting for the right moment to act. Life works the same way. If you're constantly reacting to fear, you'll make choices that lead to even more chaos. But if you take a step back, act with clarity, and trust the process, you'll slowly move closer to the life you truly want. So how do you shift from acting out of desperation to acting with purpose? First, get clear on your why. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I genuinely want it? Or because I'm afraid of not having it? Second, slow down. Desperation rushes. Purpose moves with patience. Instead of making quick decisions from a place of fear, give yourself time to reflect and choose wisely. And finally, trust yourself. You don't have to force things into place. When you act with confidence and stay true to your values, opportunities will naturally find their way to you. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." So many of our feelings of desperation come from imagined fears. What if I fail? What if things don't go the way I planned? But the truth is, you're stronger than you think. And you don't need to scramble for what was never meant for you in the first place. Act with purpose, move with confidence, and watch how life begins to align itself in your favor. Now, have you ever felt exhausted from trying to control everything? You plan, you push, you strategize, yet somehow, life still refuses to unfold the way you expect. Frustrating, isn't it? In the next part, we'll dive even deeper into that. In the last part, we talked about the importance of acting with purpose rather than from desperation, of choosing clarity and confidence over fear. But even when you manage to do that, there's another trap many of us fall into: trying to control everything. Have you ever found yourself obsessively planning, strategizing, and trying to predict every possible outcome? You think that if you can just arrange everything a certain way, you'll finally feel at peace. But strangely, the harder you grip, the more things seem to slip through your fingers. The tighter you cling to control, the more stressed and powerless you become. And here's the paradox. The moment you loosen your grip, the moment you let go, life starts to flow in your favor. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Think about that for a moment. True freedom doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from releasing the desperate need to control it. The more energy you spend trying to manage things you were never meant to control, like other people's opinions, the unpredictability of the future, or mistakes you made in the past, the more exhausted and drained you'll feel. But the moment you shift your focus back to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your attitude, your responses, you reclaim your inner power. Take relationships, for example. Have you ever tried to change someone? Maybe you wished a friend, a partner, or a family member would be more understanding, more supportive, or better aligned with your expectations. No matter how hard you tried, though, they stayed exactly the same. That's because people are not ours to control. What we can do is communicate clearly, set healthy boundaries, and decide who we welcome into our lives. But we can't force anyone to change. And when you finally let go of that need, you free yourself from endless frustration and allow your relationships to grow and unfold naturally. The same truth applies to success. A lot of people believe that if they just push harder, obsess over every little detail, and constantly worry about timing, they'll reach their goals faster. But there's a big difference between putting in effort and clinging to control. Yes, You should absolutely work toward your dreams. Give it your best. And stay disciplined. But stressing over every minor outcome, fearing failure at every turn, only builds resistance inside you. Seneca once wrote, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, when you resist the natural flow of life, you create unnecessary struggle for yourself. But when you trust the process and focus only on what's within your reach, you'll find that things begin to fall into place with much less effort than you expected. Imagine you're getting ready for a big job interview. You've done your research, you've practiced your answers, and you're fully prepared, but instead of walking in with quiet confidence, you start overthinking. What if they ask me something I don't know? What if I freeze? What if I don't get the job? Suddenly, your calm focus turns into anxiety. You walk into the room tense, nervous, second-guessing yourself. That desperate need to control the outcome is actually sabotaging your performance. But now imagine you pause. You take a deep breath. You remind yourself, "I've done the work. I'm prepared. The rest is out of my hands." And then you let go. You walk into that room relaxed, present, and far more likely to make a genuine, positive impression. So, how do you start letting go of control in your own life? First, it begins with recognizing what is and isn't yours to manage. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part. In the last part, we explored how peace comes not from controlling everything around us, but from knowing what's within our power and letting go of what isn't. Now, let's take that idea a step further. The Stoics believed in a simple but profound principle called the dichotomy of control. It means there are two kinds of things in life, those we can influence, and those we absolutely cannot. And the sooner you learn to tell the difference, the lighter and freer your life will become. Wasting your time and energy on what's beyond your reach, like other people's opinions, unpredictable outcomes, or past mistakes, only drains you and leaves you frustrated. But when you turn your focus to what is in your hands, your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions, you begin to reclaim control over your inner world. The second practice the Stoics encouraged was acceptance. Let's face it, life will rarely unfold exactly according to our plans. But does that necessarily mean it's going wrong? Not at all. Often, the detours, the unexpected twists, and the moments that don't make sense in the moment are quietly leading us to destinations better than we could have imagined. Sometimes, what feels like a setback is really just life nudging you onto a better path. Acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about trusting that even when things don't look how you expected, you still have the strength to face them. And that brings us to the third practice, trust. Not just in life's unfolding events, but in yourself. Trust that whatever comes your way, whether it's success, failure, or something in between, you have the ability to handle it. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract good fortune, opportunities, and even joy with what looks like effortless ease? It's not because they were born with some secret advantage. It's not luck, either. It's their mindset, the way you think, the way you carry yourself, and the way you view the world creates an invisible energy around you, one that either invites abundance or pushes it away. Those people who seem to move through life gracefully have learned to see possibility where others see lack. They expect good things to happen. And often, they do. On the other hand, people who constantly focus on what they don't have, whether it's money, time, love, or recognition, seem to struggle endlessly. No matter how hard they work. It's not because they're cursed or unlucky. It's the energy they carry, and the story they tell themselves. If your mind is tuned to scarcity, always believing that there's not enough to go around, you'll subconsciously seek out proof to confirm that belief. The Stoics understood this concept long before modern psychology caught up. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In other words, true abundance isn't about endlessly chasing money, accolades, or new things. It's about recognizing that you already have enough to live well, to be grateful, and to feel fulfilled. When you stop clinging to the belief that you're missing something, you make space for more to naturally find its way to you. Picture this: two people walk into the same room. One of them fixates on everything they don't have. They glance around, compare themselves to others, and quietly convince themselves that they're falling behind. Their energy is heavy, their words are tinged with doubt, and without realizing it, they push opportunities away. The second person, though, walks in with a different spirit. They believe they have enough knowledge, enough skill, enough opportunity waiting just ahead. They speak with quiet confidence, make genuine connections, and end up walking away with new possibilities in hand. What was the difference between the two? It wasn't luck, it wasn't fate, it was mindset. One person lived in scarcity, the other in abundance. And this mindset doesn't just shape your financial success. It touches every corner of your life, your relationships, your happiness, your sense of time. If you believe there's never enough love, never enough good people, never enough opportunity, your mind will always look for proof of that belief. You'll notice every slight, every shortage, every missed chance. But if you choose to shift your focus, you'll start seeing opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You'll recognize kindness in others, moments of beauty in the ordinary, and blessings already present in your life. It's like adjusting the lens of a camera. What you choose to focus on becomes clearer, brighter, and more vivid. Psychologist William James once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude." And even though he lived a century ago, his words ring just as true today. So, how do you begin to change your mindset? That's exactly what we're about to uncover next. In the previous part, we talked about the power of mindset, how believing in abundance or scarcity can quietly shape your entire life. And following that thread of thought, now it's time to dive deeper into how shifting your attitude can open new doors you never imagined. William James once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes." And he was absolutely right. If you constantly feel like you're missing something, missing money, opportunities, love, recognition, your brain will be on a non-stop mission to find evidence confirming that sense of lack. It'll pick apart every small detail, every word, every minor failure, and turn them into proof that you're unlucky. But on the other hand, if you train your mind to see abundance, to practice gratitude, to nurture confidence and trust in life's unfolding, something remarkable starts to happen. And no, it's not magic. It's a shift in perception. Because what you focus on expands. That's a simple yet incredibly powerful rule. Take a musician, for example, one who carries a scarcity mindset. They constantly worry that opportunities are limited. The industry is too competitive. And they'll never make it. Every rejection feels like a dagger confirming their fears. As a result, they hold back, play it safe, avoid risks, and in doing so, miss out on the very breakthroughs that could have changed their career. Now, imagine another musician, one who embraces an abundance mindset. They view every rejection as redirection, every challenge as an opportunity to grow. They dare to take risks, connect with more people, and, in the end, find success, not because they were luckier, but because they carried the energy of abundance instead of fear. So how do you start embodying abundance in your own life? First, start with gratitude. Instead of obsessing over what's missing, pay attention to what you already have. A roof over your head, loyal friends, a healthy body that lets you wake up every day. When you genuinely appreciate what you have, you're sending a clear message to life: I am already abundant. And life will reflect that back to you. Second, act as if you already have enough. Move through life with confidence, knowing that opportunities are everywhere. Don't carry yourself like someone who's desperate or lacking. When you walk with the belief that abundance surrounds you, you'll naturally open up, take more chances, and those unseen doors will begin to appear in front of you. And finally, learn to release attachment. Trust that what's meant for you will find you, not through force or desperate chasing, but through alignment between your actions, your beliefs, and the timing of life itself. Have you ever found yourself obsessing over a goal, pushing harder and harder, following every step you've been taught, yet the results just won't come? It feels like you're running in circles, right? And the more frustrated you get, the more exhausting it becomes. We've all been taught that success is about relentless effort, to never quit, never stop, never let go. But what most people don't realize is that there's a huge difference between aligned action and desperate action. And sometimes, the real key to progress is knowing when to act and when to take a step back. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca once said, "Effort and patience will achieve more than force and anxiety." In today's culture, we glorify the grind, the belief that if you just work hard enough, things will eventually go your way. But real success isn't about blind, non-stop effort. It's about making the right moves, staying open to unexpected opportunities, and then allowing life to unfold in its own way. Forcing things only creates resistance. It's like trying to untangle a knot. The harder you yank, the tighter it gets. Or think about trying to fall asleep. You can't force yourself to sleep. The more you try, the more restless you become. But the moment you let go, relax, and trust that sleep will come, it does, naturally, without effort. The same is true for success, relationships, and personal growth. Yes, you need to take action, but you also need to trust the process. Picture a farmer planting seeds. They prepare the soil, plant the seeds, water them, and make sure they get enough sunlight. But after that, they don't dig up the seeds every day demanding faster growth. They trust that in time, with care and patience, those seeds will sprout. If they tried to rush the process, they'd only destroy what they planted. Life works in exactly the same way. You take your action, do what's in your control, and then, let nature handle the rest. In the last part, we talked about how, after doing your part, it's crucial to let go and allow things to unfold in their own time. And the truth is, this principle applies to every area of life. Take relationships. For example, have you ever met someone who came on too strong? Maybe they texted constantly, always needed reassurance, and filled every space with heavy, anxious energy, even if they didn't say it out loud. You could feel the desperation hanging in the air like a dense fog. And then, there are those people who remain calm, grounded, and confident. They show genuine interest, but they also know when to give space. They don't force things, and because of that, they naturally draw others in. It's like an effortless gravity. You might not even realize why you're drawn to them, but you are. That's what happens when you take aligned action and then release control. You create the space for life to breathe, to move, and to unfold, instead of suffocating it with your expectations. Or think about your career. Maybe you've been grinding, chasing every opportunity, pushing yourself to the limit. And yet, things still aren't moving the way you hoped. It's frustrating, right? You start to panic. You question whether you're doing enough. You wonder if you're falling behind. But what if, instead of spiraling, you trusted that your effort was already enough? What if you focused on mastering your craft, building meaningful relationships, and simply allowing the right opportunities to come to you at the right time? Now, this doesn't mean you stop trying or sit back and do nothing. It means you stop clinging to the illusion of control. You stop demanding that life deliver results on your schedule. And instead, you act with intention and wisdom, and then you let life do what it does. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "Do what you must, let what happens, happen." That is the essence of aligned action. You focus on what's within your control, your effort, your discipline, your mindset, and you let go of what isn't. Because the truth is, no matter how carefully you plan, no matter how hard you push, there will always be things beyond your control. The more you resist this reality, the more exhausted and frustrated you'll feel. So, how do you actually live this way in your daily life? First, get crystal clear about your goals. Know what you want, and understand what steps you need to take to get there. Prepare, train, learn, and do your part well. Second, release your grip on how and when the results should show up. Accept that timing isn't always something you get to dictate. The right things will arrive when they're meant to, not necessarily when you demand them to. And third, trust in your own resilience. Believe that no matter how things turn out, you have the strength to adapt, to learn, and to discover new opportunities along the way. Because at the end of the day, life isn't about controlling every outcome. It's about mastering yourself, your reactions, your discipline, your thoughts. The moment you shift your focus from chasing to aligning, from forcing to flowing, everything around you begins to move with a different kind of ease. When you stop grasping and start trusting, life responds. This was a truth the Stoics understood centuries ago. And now, it's yours to practice. So, take a deep breath. Trust your process. And remember, real power always comes from within. If this message resonated with you, there's another video on the screen right now that dives even deeper into Stoic wisdom. Click on it and keep exploring. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on a new insight from Stoic Journal. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.